Hey, and welcome to Reminiscent Evil. I'm your host, Josh, and with me this week on this episode is Sam, where we will be talking about Resident Evil Apocalypse. Unfortunately, not starring the X-Men, enemy of the same fame.
Yeah, that's my favorite X-Men villain too. Yeah. I think the big thing, I haven't, before, you kind of asked me to go on, I hadn't seen this film, really since like my first year at college. So it had been like a full decade. What I picked up on that I didn't pick up on necessarily the first time, a lot more references to the video game series than I remembered.
Yeah, which is strange because the director of the first one and then pretty much the creator of the film franchise has gone on record numerous times to say that he'll play through the games and cherry pick what he enjoys most out of each game and just throws them into any of his random films.
Well, Anderson only writes this one. He's busy doing Alien vs. Predator at the time.
Right, but I mean, like, in overseeing the film series as a whole, he'll have like the final say of like what will go in and out, and like this is the one
he's still producing, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and like this is the one that stays as faithful to the games out of all of them, which is why it's my favorite.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And if I recall correctly, wouldn't you say, I think I've heard you say this either on this show or on over on the Catching Up series before, wouldn't you say Resident Evil 2 is your favorite of the video game franchise?
Favorite for just the style of gameplay. Also, it's the one that officially introduced me to the series.
Right. I remember it was a big deal, though I feel like the movie almost takes more cues from Nemesis, Resident Evil 3, to the point where the movie was originally subtitled Resident Evil Nemesis, and then Star Trek Nemesis bombed at the box office, and then Paul Anderson was like, no, and fucking reversed that decision as quickly as he could.
Right.
But it's interesting. There's a lot of, obviously, like you were saying, there's a lot of visual cues to Resident Evil 2. You've got you've got Resident Evil 3 cues. You've got Nemesis.
Yeah, the big bad from Resident Evil 3, the video game Nemesis.
Yeah, who's just unstoppable in that game until the very end.
Yeah, rocket launcher will do that to you.
Yeah, and the fact that he's a buff zombie.
Yeah. And also, he doesn't stop. Like, you can think you'll get to a safe point in the game, and he'll blow through a wall. So it's like, shit, I gotta keep running? Well, damn.
And that's one of the elements I liked about the game Resident Evil 3. The kind of this inevitability that's almost like a chase.
Yeah, like you never felt safe unless you were in a safe room. Yeah. Like you heard the music cues, like, okay, he can't come in here. I'm okay for now.
Yeah. Though, I mean, what Capcom always excelled at, like Resident Evil 2, with the hands bursting into the elevator and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Even takes some cues from. It's also got Carlos, who's a playable character in Resident Evil 3. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, the head of the Umbrella cleanup services.
Yeah. And I mean, for those of you at home who've never, played Resident Evil 2 or 3, and just you're only familiar with the movie series, Resident Evil 2, basically, it's the city, the infection that begins in the mansion in the Arlay Mountains spreads to fucking Raccoon City, which, would you say that I think it was, I forget if it was you or Chris last episode were saying that that's your favorite part of the first film, the ending sequence where Alice, wakes up in the hospital, very 28 Days Later style.
Yeah, when I saw that, I thought, okay, this is great. We're getting Raccoon City, and after playing the games, I'm thinking we're going to get Leon Kennedy on his first day on the job of being a rookie cop. We're going to see Claire showing up. We'll probably...
She was in the original script.
Well, okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she's not in the film. She shows up, what?
She gets saved for the third film.
So the next one. Okay,
right.
Yeah.
But, we're going to get... with it in the city, we might actually finally see the STARS team that should have been in the first film exploring the mansion.
Yeah. Do we ever, because these movies better than I do, do we ever see Chris Redfield?
We do in the third film.
Okay.
Claire shows up in the third film searching for her brother.
Okay, cool, yeah. For me, to kind of touch back to the game Resident Evil 2, Leon, I think, was always my favorite Resident Evil character.
Yeah, I'd say what made him special was like he was like the truest outsider. So it was easier.
Yeah, like you were saying, yeah, it's his first day.
Yeah, it was always easiest, I think, for the people playing the games to identify with him most because he was the most out of place out of anyone in the games.
And like he's on my favorite Resident Evil game, and I'm sure purists are gonna like sharpen their pitchforks and start lighting torches, is actually like Resident Evil 4, because
well, it took the series in a new direction, which is why a lot of people probably didn't enjoy it.
You can actually control the camera.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
God forbid you ever be allowed to do that.
Yeah, you don't move like a human fucking tank, which is nice. Leon does fucking tornado kicks. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. You have, like, Indiana Jones moments in it.
Well, it has one of the best opening sequences of any video, survival horror or otherwise, where you're literally by yourself and an entire village is trying to kill you, and you can lock the doors and push furniture in from it, and they'll break through it. They'll set up ladders, and like it's just relentless. And that's what I loved about Resident Evil 4. Then the fact that, I mean, there's something to be said for the cinematic style of having like the static camera, like in the original games. I can get behind that. I can understand that.
It helped build the suspense of not being able to see everywhere around you.
Right, but it does get frustrating.
Oh yeah.
The fact that you can't necessarily see quite where you're aiming. You know, you're pointing your gun in that general direction, and it's like, aren't you a fucking STARS elite cop? How can you not hit the zombie that's 2 feet in front of you? That always kind of got on my nerves. But yeah, the movie. Yeah, we get Jill. And she looks just like she does in Resident Evil 3.
Yeah, well, we never get to see her in her STARS outfit. We see her, 3 starts with her shedding her STARS uniform, getting into that very low-cut, skimpy blue dress, and, bolting out of town.
Apparently, Mila Jovovich wanted to explain in film universe that there was a heat wave going through Raccoon City. That's why her and Jill are wearing kind of like skimpier clothing in the middle of a zombie outbreak.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Jill was wearing that, but she was cutting out of town. In this one, she cuts down to that outfit and then makes a beeline for her former employer to announce she's getting out of town.
Yeah, the thing is, and the reason why they never mention it in the movie is because they filmed it in Toronto in November.
Well, that must have been pleasant.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, no, I mean, even the action sequences kind of take cues from the FMV sequences in the Metal Gear games. Like, there's that sequence, I think the big action sequence everybody remembers is either the big fight in the graveyard where they're all climbing out of the ground, or where she's fighting the Lickers in the church, and it goes slow motion, kind of like it does in Resident Evil 0.
Yeah, that's the one where she makes her motorcycle entrance.
Yeah, what do you think of the Lickers look in this film versus the singular Licker that we get in the first one?
Well, I think in the first one he had a more stylized look because they kind of wanted to build the fear and momentum of the creature. And this one,
you've got the nemesis that fills that role.
Yeah, and in this one, the Lickers are kind of just a side piece, so they don't focus too greatly on the design of them.
They're like the Velociraptors.
Yeah.
Of Resident Evil. If like Lost World, we've seen these guys before, but they still kick ass unless Malcolm's daughter knows gymnastics.
Yeah.
Spoilers, she does know gymnastics, but she gets cut from the team. But there's that, and there's even that sequence where I think Alice is getting machine gun, she's running through the the tower or the building, and the helicopter outside's trying to machine gun her.
Yeah.
A la Matrix. That's straight out of the opening sequence of Code Veronica, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you are correct.
And Code Veronica, I don't know if it's because it was released on the Dreamcast for at first. I felt that game never got a fair shake. I think it's actually quite good.
Well, it did get later re-released for other systems, but yeah, its initial reception wasn't that high because it was on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, which is a shame. Dreamcast was ahead of its time.
That's why it failed.
Yeah, I guess. Would you go that far for the Wii U? No?
No, the Wii and Wii U are fine just for what they are, but they're not, they're not failing because they're ahead of their time.
Okay, well,
They're right in their time.
Yeah, right on time.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently not, because they didn't light up this. Well, at least the Wii U didn't. The Wii was one of the best-selling consoles of all time. But I digress. Now, because again, I can speak more to the movies than I can, or the video games more than I can the movies. Where, like, what are you familiar with all the games that influenced this? So, because I don't know if you've always kind of been like no Nintendo post N64, correct? So, did you ever play the remake of Resident Evil for the GameCube or Resident Evil 0?
I played the remake of Resident Evil when it came to the Xbox One, which was pretty much taking the GameCube's version, updating the graphics a little bit more, but the exact same gameplay style.
So you still move like a fucking tank?
No, you have better controls this time. Yeah, well, you can set it to tank controls if you want to punish yourself that much.
Yeah, okay. But what about 0?
I just recently pre-ordered it on my Xbox One.
Oh, because they're doing the same thing to that?
Yeah, same where they took the remastered version of it.
Which was always kind of an unusual, yeah, because that's right, they re-released it for the Wii with motion controls. But the, that was always a weird one, because you were technically controlling like two characters at the same time.
Well, at some points, and then, it kind of did the same thing where you'd get split up a la Chris and Jill in the Mansion game.
Now, do you think that, you're saying this one's your favorite, is there any big, like, is it the big set pieces? Is it the fact that it's, what is it that makes Resident Evil Apocalypse stand a cut above the rest?
It's, the fans of the games, when they saw the first film, they were like, okay, that's the mansion, we're leaving the mansion, what the hell, this isn't the STARS team, what's going on, and I've lost interest.
Yeah, because the lab section of Resident Evil is only like the last act of the game, where it's like the entire movie.
Right, whereas with this one, you get Jill, you get the Umbrella cleanup crew, you get the same characters from the Umbrella cleanup crew, you get Nikolai and Carlos.
The impending nuke.
Yes, you get the big bad, the Nemesis, despite at the end where he's like, wait, I remember, I'm the good guy from the first movie.
Well, he only says another cool little nod for all you Resident Evil aficionados. I think he only says STARS.
He says STARS once after he eviscerates a small group of STARS members that have held up in one of the police stations.
Yeah, and he's just like, STARS.
Yeah, which is great, because in that scene you get you get one of the STARS members outside that's got a sniper rifle that's just similar to one of the characters from Resident Evil, the first game. Mm-hmm. And, you get a great little line of, like, where he's taking out zombies with headshots, and you just hear him say, I've got the power.
You know what my least favorite element of Resident Evil Apocalypse is?
Nemesis?
No, I like the Nemesis.
The STARS teams?
The STARS teams are fine.
I'll
give you a hint.
Alice.
No, Mila Jovovich is the best performer, the most charismatic performer of the cast.
Jill?
No. I'll give you a hint, though. Gold-plated.
Oh. Yeah. The one character I don't quite
LJ, for all you at home,
yeah.
played by Mike Epps.
Yeah. I don't get why they added him in.
Because they wanted to appeal to a more urban audience. Originally they approached Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg turned them down. I think to work on Starsky and Hutch.
I gotta be completely honest. I think I probably would have hated the movie if it was Snoop Dogg in there.
Whoa!
Well, for the scene how
Snoop Dogg can do better than Mike Epps.
Well, just seeing of how they were going with the character, it would have been a performance I think would have not belonged in the game or in. It
would take you right out of the movie.
Yeah, which, go figure, something like that would take me out of
it takes me out of the movie
that's as believable
just being,
as what it is.
Yeah, well, it takes me out of the... Also, how did the dead come out of the ground? Did the virus settle into the soil? Instead of just infecting randos?
I think it's raining during that scene, too.
Oh, it must have gone into the atmosphere?
I think they pulled something kind of like the insanity they do with, like, I'm trying to remember which of the other zombie films have involved a cemetery.
Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, or like the one that involves like the chemical spills.
Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, something.
You're right. Yeah, but my thing is, I guess. Well, what's her name? The Red Queen does, if I think about it, mention that like the virus can change and evolve.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a throwaway line in the original. I don't know if that gets harped on. No Jason Isaacs either. I think he was offered the chance to come back, but he turned it down.
Pity.
You think? I mean, he's always good in whatever he's in.
Yeah.
But did you watch this in theaters, or was this like a DVD kind of?
Oh no, this was a theater one. Just because, seeing all the trailers for it and thinking, okay, I've got, like I mentioned before, my Stars team, my Umbrella Cleanup Crew, my Jill, my Nemesis.
I didn't because I was kind of, even though it's the only one I own, I was kind of let down by the first film because of the aforementioned, like, hey, none of this really takes place in the mansion. But I own it because, it's a decent, like, video game film. It's a decent, like, action film.
I mean, it's no Super Mario Brothers.
No. Or, you know what my favorite Anderson film is? Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah. Though I will say, because, he left this movie to do, at least the directorial role to do Alien vs. Predator. Alien vs. Predator, even though it's not perfect, is the better movie.
I mean, it is, in some regards, also a comic book movie, or a comic book and video game movie.
Yeah, I played the arcade game.
Yeah.
But my only complaint, and we'll get back to Resident Evil, I promise. My only complaint about Alien vs. Predator. Well, I have more than one complaint, but the big one is one xenomorph takes out two predators. One fucking xenomorph.
Yeah, that is a bit of a stretch.
Now, you could argue, because it's a training facility for the predators, that they're like neophyte beginner predators, and it's like, well, still, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That must have been like King Xenomorph, or I guess they're all female, Queen Xenomorph. But yeah, that just always takes me right out of it. But yeah, I didn't see this in theaters. When I was in my first semester of college, one of my roommates was like, "Hey, you want to see Resident Evil Apocalypse?" Like, he wanted to track down the DVD at the video store back when those things still existed, and it was just like
simpler times.
Well, I was like, not really. And then he showed me some of the pictures, and it had like Sienna Guillory as Jill Valentine, and right in that fucking outfit. And I was like, oh, so because I had it, like, for me, like, right up there with like Lara Croft. Huge video game crush on Jill Valentine. Even in like the enhanced remake of Resident Evil, where she's got like coke eyes and like is wearing like the hat and everything.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, so I mean,
yeah, and like
that was the selling point.
Her introduction in the film is like busting through her apartment door, putting on the outfit, strapping the gun to her hip, then heading out, showing up in the police station, and like kicking in the doors the first time you actually see her from like head to toe. And the first thing she does is, after scanning the room and seeing like zombies like being detained by cops, is shoot every single one of them in the head without stopping. And when she finishes, all the cops in there have drawn their weapons on her. Like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, it's Valentine.
Yeah. Again, that was a huge selling. But did they ever reveal how much time Alice is in the hospital before she wakes up? Because obviously the entire outbreak is, fucking happened. At least long enough for them to...
They do say, how long she's... Like, after being abducted from the mansion and then wakes up, they do say how much time has passed, but...
Enough time to turn that one dude into the Nemesis.
Yeah, well...
And enough time to have newspapers print saying the dead walk.
Yeah, and enough time to have Alice and the dude are both experimented on at the same time as they show in flashbacks throughout the film. And so it's also enough time for her abilities, which really take the film franchise into one hell of a weird direction, to manifest.
The thing about the Resident Evil films versus the Resident Evil games, after like Resident Evil 3, they've contained the T-virus. Sure, there's the minor outbreak in Code Veronica, and then there's the weird Plagas in 4 and 5 and whatever the fuck's going on in 6.
Yeah.
6 is so bad. 6 was such a letdown. But in the movie universe,
the virus wins.
The virus wins. Humanity's like fucked.
Yep.
Like the next installment, which I'm sure you'll talk about next time, is calls the subtitles Extinction.
Yeah. And like the Umbrella Corporation is still a thing.
Yeah,
throughout it all.
They get dismantled in between what, 3 and 4? Or like you basically dismantle them in Code Veronica.
Yeah, and in the game franchise, by the time you get to 5, it's a new company that's sort of like acquired all the materials and dump sites from Umbrella.
Yeah, and they just dump it in Africa.
Yeah,
which is why that all goes pretty south.
Yep,
but,
tits up.
Yeah, but no, it's interesting. I didn't see, but yeah. So we managed to track down a copy and we watched it. I will say I did like the teaser trailer for this, and they kind of repeat it with Extinction, where they have like the fake commercial, like for Extinction it was like the Las Vegas commercial.
Yeah.
And then for this one it's like the fake cosmetic commercial, and you just see the chick turn into a fucking zombie after.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I thought was genius marketing.
Also, what did you think of the evacuation of the scientist and his daughter in the opening with, like, the pristine little happy homemaker cookie-cutter village, and then, like, the umbrella cars just rolling in out of nowhere?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's almost surreal, right?
Yeah.
Which I suppose is kind of the point, that and the fact that it's kind of like the dichotomy of these, like, you know, like black ops almost like level things escorting them out of like the 50s.
Yeah, and like what time of the day would you say that it all was taking place? Like 9, 10 in the morning?
Yeah, I would assume like right around the, you know, your stereotypical like kind of like everybody at the breakfast table time.
Right, and then you have basically the equivalent of a drunk driver and a garbage truck just demolishes the little girl's transport out.
Yeah.
At like 10 in the morning. It's like, who the fuck's been drinking that many 40s this early in the morning?
Have you
to work?
Yeah, there's some rough stuff, but the
or it could have been the Punisher.
Yeah, Richard Harris's character, who I guess they credit as the creator for the T virus, he's a new character too, right?
Yeah, he's nothing like Birkin.
Birkin, right? Sherry's father.
Yeah, well, the little girl kind of does a good way of being a Sherry-esque character.
And she's the basis for the Red Queen.
Yeah, and the virus in both iterations is supposed to be something to help them, like in a cellular level, save their lives, like they show in this movie. She keeps doing injections of it as they discover, but it's so she can walk. Like, she's got the same disease her father has. It's put him in a wheelchair.
Yeah. The, what's it? The, the Sherry Birkin and all that. That's, and that fucking Carlos. Carlos is so cool. I don't think I've seen that guy in anything but the Mummy movies, though.
Yeah. I really like Nikolai more, though.
Really?
I loved the character just because of his sense of humor, the way he handles all the situations.
He's comic relief that's not annoying, unlike Mike Epps.
Oh, yeah. And especially with the dogs.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm trying to remember the lines he delivers when he's getting devoured. He's like a bad pooch or something like that.
Yeah, bad dog.
And he like puts them down, and then like, well, he's in the middle of almost getting one, and then 2 more show up, and he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. There's some interesting deaths in this, like when the reporter goes out in the school.
I was not disappointed by that.
I'm not saying
I really did not like, well, not just how her character was written, but just the arc of that character within the film. I was happy to see her go.
Right, just like I'm happy to see LJ go in the future installments.
Oh God, I was so happy for that one too.
But the it kind of reminded me of the opening for the remake of Resident Evil, like on the GameCube, where what's his name? I think Eddie gets killed by the dogs in the beginning, and you see the video camera.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that was a nice little nod. Again, like, I feel this is the only movie Alexander Witt actually directed. He's done a lot of second unit stuff.
Right.
He was second unit on Skyfall. He's second unit on Casino Royale.
Wow.
Yeah, he's second unit on like just a tits load of stuff. A lot of your favorite films. Minus Ghost. Okay, maybe not a lot of your favorite films, but a fair amount of your. Do you like Gremlins?
Yes.
Second unit director on Gremlins.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I think he's a hell of a, he knows how to set up shots great.
Right.
He's a great camera op. He knows where to put that camera. But I don't know, how would you stack his direction up against Anderson's? Or is there not a noticeable difference for you?
I mean, it's a very well-directed film. There's nothing in it that I feel is lacking direction-wise. Like, everyone hits their marks well, I think.
What do you think is the weakest part of the film, then? What do you think? Because there is an element that holds it back. Is it just LJ? And I guess the reporter?
Well, no, just how a character is written. LJ, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, like, I despised the reporter character because I feel like that's what you were supposed to do in the film.
Well, my big problem, I think, with the Resident Evil films, and this isn't just a Resident Evil, you could argue this is just an action film problem, or you could argue this is just a video game adaptation problem. Minus Alice, a lot of the characters are just caricatures. They don't really feel fully realized.
Do you remember the FMVs from the first Resident Evil game?
Like the original where you see them like smoke and stuff?
Yeah, like the live action stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, or there's some of the dialogue, like Barry's great lines of like, here, Jill, take this lockpick. You're the master of unlocking.
Yeah.
Or, you nearly became a Jill sandwich.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, they're laughable characters to begin with.
Well, at the same time, you need to aspire to be better Alexander Witz. But
Well, I always like to say that no matter how great a director is, you can't make magic out of a shit script.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an Anderson script, and he's proven himself, I think, with video game adaptations before. Mortal Kombat, again, being the prime example. I think Mortal Kombat is, one of the best. That and the first Silent Hill are among the best video game adaptations for me.
But I mean, like, again, when you choose to cherry pick what goes into your films, and you're cherry picking from a franchise that's known to, in the very early iterations, have cookie-cutter characters, you can't reinvent them if you're enjoying how they already are presented to you.
Who do you think is the most... Okay, now that we're on this tangent, out of the video game characters, just the video games, like, don't factor in any of what happens in the movies, who do you think is the most realized video game protagonist? So you've got Jill, you've got Chris, you've got Claire, you've got Leon.
It's either it goes to Wesker, Albert Wesker, Leon Kennedy, or Chris Redfield.
And for me, it's Leon. I think he's the most, like, he's almost like suffering. When you first see him in Resident Evil before all that shit goes down, he's still clearly troubled by his, the events of Raccoon City.
Yeah. You mean when he's on the Secret Service detail?
Yeah, and he's like in the back of the SUV, just like looking at the Spanish countryside, and you can tell that there's something on his mind because the president's daughter, as far as he knows, it's just a routine go in, go out, snatch and grab.
Right.
And then of course he finds out people can like open their faces into like flesh flowers, like the Thing, and he's like, oh fuck. There's a guy with a sack on his head that comes at him with a chainsaw, and he's just like, oh god. There's a weird salamander monster in the middle of it. That's my favorite boss fight in the entire game.
Not the gigantic troll?
No, even with the help of the dog, or wolf rather.
Good.
I mean, that's nice, but that's not my favorite fight. Del Lago. Have you ever, in the sense of panic, if you ever get knocked out of the motorboat, and then because you get Del Lago's perspective as it swims towards Leon to eat him up.
Oh god!
And you're just like faster, because I had it on the Wii, so I've got the Wiimote, and I'm like jerking it off as fast as I can to get back in the boat.
Yeah, 5.
And I excel at that. I never get caught.
5 had a lot of moments. 5 was basically an Africa version of 4.
Yeah, I think the big asset for Resident Evil 5 is the co-op multiplayer. The cooperative multiplayer is great.
Yeah, but I just remember playing in 5, and the very opening part of it is like Chris getting swarmed by, again, same thing in a very empty town that all of a sudden all these villagers come out of, and you're trying to barricade things to keep yourself safe. I remember the first time I played it and got to that and was getting swarmed in, I quit out of the game, popped the disc out, and traded it back into GameStop. I was like, nope, I am not dealing with this.
Oh.
This is not my brand of Resident Evil.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy 5, but it really is the beginning of... you could argue the beginning of the end is 4 when they switch to the more action style.
Well, I just didn't like that feeling of, like, I don't know where to go. I know I'm going to get my ass handed to me. I'd rather not face this level of defeat. I mean, I eventually came back to it and manned the fuck up.
Right.
But...
Yeah, I think 5's okay. I don't think that the last boss should be a boulder in a volcano that you punch to death.
Yeah.
Right.
That is a bit of a too much action movie ending.
Yeah. So, we're kind of wrapping this up. You feel like this is like the shining star of the franchise.
Yes, it's the one where we get closest to the moon of touching the video games. And then the rest we just get ejected into the sun.
Don't you like the rest of the movies?
Oh, I do, but I just meant in getting as close to the video game properties.
Oh, okay.
And like one concise movie story.
Yeah, I think it translates pretty well, actually. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward story, just like it is in Resident Evil 2 and 3. Survive and escape.
Yeah.
Before you get fucking nuked.
Yeah, before an entire city gets nuked on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
And then forgotten about.
Same thing happens in Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Popping that out there. Now, yeah, I mean, for me, Resident Evil is the definitive survival horror franchise. It's some of my favorite video games of all time. Resident Evil, if I have to make a recommendation for all you listeners out there who have never played a Resident Evil game, try 4. 4 I think is the most user-friendly.
If you enjoy action.
Well, again, you can control the camera, and you can actually aim.
Well, depending on which system you have, you can also acquire the remakes of the remakes of the remakes that have the fixed camera
you can
perspectives as well.
Well...
Like Resident Evil, soon to be Resident Evil 0. I would assume Resident Evil 2, since they're rebuilding its remaster from the ground up.
Did they do it, like, in the style of Resident Evil 4, where it's, like, over the shoulder?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's still third-person perspective, but the camera and control motion works like it should.
Oh,
not
good.
Like
I might have to
super
look into
tanky.
that.
Like,
yeah.
you can set it to super tanky.
I would never set it to super tanky.
Or you can take it off super tanky.
But yeah, because that was one of the... again, there's something to be said for that. That's how I first played those games. But it does get frustrating when you can't really see precisely what you're aiming at, and you can't move the camera to see. And again, that, I guess, adds to the fear, right?
Yep.
The fact that you don't know there's a spider right above the door.
Exactly.
The fact that you don't... Yeah. It's that for me is the most what I should think are obvious reasons. Big arachnophobe, if you listeners at home don't know. So
Ditto.
Yeah. So in that moment in the original Resident Evil game where you're just like, oh, nothing to see here, and you walk into the room and the camera pans up or pulls out and reveals that there's a massive spider, like massive tarantula above the doorway, and you're just like, I'm going to fucking die.
Yeah.
Horribly. Oh man.
But thankfully, you burn it. You burn it in the entire room with fire.
Yeah, oh god. And what is it about spiders? Is it the way they move?
No, it's the way they look.
And the way they move. Although it's almost unnatural.
I mean, let's be honest. 8 of anything is way too much, and that just isn't right.
Yeah. I got 8 of everything. Just been another...
But no, back away slowly now.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean... Resident Evil Apocalypse, if you're looking for, I'll agree with you, Josh, if you're looking for a movie that gets as close to the video game franchise, which we all know and love, Resident Evil Apocalypse is as close as it gets, unless they wow us with the final chapter. I guess, does that come out this coming year? It's in production now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say if it hasn't wrapped up production, it's damn close.
Yeah. I know it got...
Despite its...
Well, it got pushed back because Mila Jovovich got pregnant again.
Yeah. Pregnancy will do that.
Yeah.
Again.
Tie you up for at least 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't stop Scarlett Johansson with Age of Ultron, though.
Just tells you something about him.
Those Anderson boys can swim. But the, yeah, I mean, this is as close as it gets to, to the video games. Resident Evil 2, great game. I'm looking forward to the remake. I'm kind of surprised. I was always bummed that they never did it. They never gave Resident Evil 2, 3, or or Code Veronica, the
Ooh.
HD enhancement that they did to the original and Zero.
Yeah, I guess it was more of just Capcom's a finicky company. It's always a matter
Make
of
a Mega Man game, goddammit.
timing, what the fans are yelling at them the most about.
Make a Mega Man game, goddammit.
You gotta yell louder, Sam. You gotta encompass at least a couple million people.
Oh.
Yeah. And our producer, thankfully, has just let us know that the final chapter, if we're to be believed, video game movies are a finicky thing, is to be released in 2017.
Is there anything else in Resident Evil Apocalypse before we sign off that you wish were in the future installments or would like to see in the final chapter? Would you have preferred the version where Claire Redfield shows up?
I would prefer... Oh, no, actually, I would have preferred seeing a version of Leon that was closer to the game, because the version we get of him later on in the films doesn't resemble any of his video game incarnations other than the outfit.
Have you seen the CGI movie?
Yeah, I own the CGI movies.
Yeah.
Those are canonical within the game universe, which
Yeah.
I love those.
Right, yeah. It's interesting because...
and we might add those as well later.
In the newspaper, it says that Leon's dead. It's a real throwaway thing. But they say Leon's dead, but then they bring him back, and I'm like, oh, thank Christ.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm yeah. So
You're talking about the one that takes place at the airport?
the
That
CGI game?
movie?
Yes.
Okay. I don't remember that.
Degeneration?
Yeah, no, just the newspaper clipping.
No, the newspaper clippings in Resident Evil Apocalypse. It's real. It's in the same newspaper that says like the Dead Walk or whatever.
I know now what I'm doing on my, I guess, 10th reviewing.
Yeah, scene by scene. Just, but the because originally, they were gonna kill him off before he even showed up. But yeah, I'm glad they saved him or brought him into Retribution.
Yeah.
And they brought. I feel like that like the Fast and the Furious franchise is one of those franchises where they just bring everybody back. Like, oh, Michelle Rodriguez totally died in the first one. No, she didn't. And it's
we'll explain how they work that in.
Well,
later.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, thanks for having me on, though.
Oh, you're quite welcome, Sam.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were willing to join me for this one.
Always a blast talking Resident Evil. Always a blast talking Resident Evil. Now, if you brought up Dino Crisis, I might tell you to fuck yourself. Actually, the first one's okay.
Well, now I know what to do next time. All right, folks. Well, this has been another installment of Reminiscent Evil. I'm your host, Josh, as always, with one of my favorite co-hosts, Sam.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yep. See you next time.